This video is sponsored by the Design Mechanism, the makers of Mythras. Mythras is a registered trademark of the Design Mechanism Inc., used with permission. All rights reserved. We are actually, before anybody jumps to any conclusions, we're talking about Mr. Pickles' new monitor. Nothing.
Bigger than his arm.
Yeah, it's bigger than his arm.
Baby's arm older than apple.
Have you still got the other one up and running as well?
Well, I still have two monitors. I just got rid of one that was inferior.
When you say get rid of, yes,
I put it in the closet. That's a backup.
I'm sorry. Your HDMI, yes, your 15-pin slot is no longer subject to my desire.
You are banished to the closet. Go. Go. Hello, everyone.
I've been using a 3-monitor setup at work recently. I can't cope without 3 monitors. I'm gonna have to buy a third.
Yeah, I don't know how you managed to do it with the 2. Hello and welcome to this week. I think tonight will be the finale of the Great Boar Hunt, which is the recent Mythras adventure that these 4 gallant, brave adventurers have been participating in. We left the adventure rather at a cliffhanger last week, and
I know it was for me and Mr. Pickles.
Yes, it was. You were busy interrogating, and everybody was in different places. The party was probably the most split up that I've ever seen in the whole of every adventure that they've had in the campaign. But everything came to a head, and we were sort of like leaving. We left everything on a knife edge. But before I tell you about that, welcome to Garish Lee, who's in the chat, and also
hi, Garish,
and also Milky Ink is in. That was a
hi,
one.
Milk.
That was
Play
a
without me, guys. I don't mind if you do an odd level without me.
Milk. That was a really nice picture you were drawing earlier on. Did you go with the brass inlay or not? I'm really interested whether or not you actually went for it or not. So before we start playing, I'm going to allow the players an opportunity to say who they are and their characters that they will be playing tonight. And as always, we go first of all to Chugawugga.
Hi guys, I'm Chugawugga. I play the character Gulliver, the youngest member of the party. He is trained in the art of sorcery. He's an apprentice sorcerer in one of Odysseus' 4 sorcery orders. His particular order is that of the Kraken, the Blue Order, the order that specializes in spells evolving around communication, transportation, and teleportation. As the sorcerer, he has the ability to shape his spells however he sees fit. He can change various aspects of them, including the range, the magnitude, the number of targets that it can affect, or they can affect, and even combine several spell castings into a single cast. He also has lower level spells. He refers to them as his cantrips, although they're based around the folk magic school of the Mythras spells. And he was recently injured in the battle with the necromancer, although that's a fair while ago now. He took a very nasty wound to one of his legs, just caused him to walk with a bit of a limp, and he doesn't get around as much as he used to. But he's young, and he'll heal eventually. And I shall pass on to Mr. Pickles.
Well, I am Mr. Pickles, and I play Bartleby Fumus, who is our team's theist. In the Mythras system, theist is basically the equivalent of your priests and clerics. The god he serves, or goddess, I should say, is Amriel, the light moon goddess. Through her, he's able to work various miracles from the theism school of magic. Most of them just to protect, heal, keep people from dying from disease or poison, putting arms back on mostly, common cleric stuff like that. But he also has folk magic like Gulliver, which he calls his prayers, that also revolve around protection, like Spirit Shield and protection. Otherwise, he is our group's knowledge person about the local area, particularly the impoverished areas. He's got streetwise lore skills. He knows a lot about monsters and the history of this land, being that he's from it. He's a friend of the guards, and he has an oath to the Twin Moons. I'll pass it on to Medivac.
Hello and thank you. I'm Medivac and I play Hajar Khan. I like to touch my face lots. That's a bad thing at the moment. He is a nomad from the northern steppes of Rhodes. He was on this continent when these other two chaps popped along. He is a scout, a tracker. He's been separated from his tribe for a while now, so he's come down south, and he is trying to help people who are struggling and trying to find things. And I say from his group, and he's trying to help a lot. He's finding it's a struggle to bond with some people, but then he's getting there, and then something happens, and he breaks away a little bit. But he's trying. He has got a big black arm, which he got from trying to pick up a stone, which he shouldn't have touched, but he tried to save the party by picking it up. He joined the Brotherhood recently, which is a group of people who keep track of changes in biomes and what's happening in the world and how things affect nature. He's learning quite a bit from them. And with that, I shall pass on to Longshanks EPG.
Thank you very much. Back. Hi guys, I'm Longshanks EPG, and tonight I'm playing the character Hengist. Hengist is a noble warrior from across the sea. Noble in two senses, in the fact that he was born into a noble family, and noble as into the fact that he tries to act nobly and courageously and looking after the small people, which is one of the reasons why he's joined the noble house Galot, because that is essentially what they do. They look after the downtrodden. They help to supply arms and armor and that sort of thing to Lindo, Count Bastion of Lindo's town guards and those sorts of things. And they're generally very charitable lot. He is, as I said, he's a warrior by trade. He's decked out in full heavy plate armor. Can fight with a sword and shield, but at the moment he's trying to use his one and a half handed sword in a two-handed way. So he can do some extra staying power, essentially. He came to Lindo from across the sea on the trail of his sister who'd been kidnapped or stolen away, taken away. Don't want to say kidnapped because she was an adult. That always sounds weird. On the eve of her wedding. And the only hint he had was from one of the men he managed to kill, and the crest that they were wearing, which was emblazoned with a twin-headed snake. Now, this organisation has popped up every so often in Lindo, killing a nobleman in a far-off part of Lindo as well. Odis, sorry, not Lindo, far part of Odis, where he almost found his sister, but then took a spear to the side and almost died if it wasn't for Bartleby. And now they're back. And at that moment, inwils.
Well, you don't have to do anything now, Inwils.
I know. Longshank CPG, your mic is a lot quieter than it
Hang
normally is. So just bump it up a bit.
How's that?
Yeah, the stream was saying too quiet. Yeah,
Too quiet.
Is that better?
That seems to be better for me.
I just moved it about 2 inches further towards my face.
Yeah. That I think now it's peaking roughly the same as everybody else's. So
that's all right, then.
Yeah, so really exciting. The party has joined the House Galot, which is one of the 3 noble houses of Lindo, and Hengist decided to pledge allegiance to that house and was invited onto the Great Boar Hunt. Now, this is an expedition, a hunt that happens every year between the 3 noble houses of Lindo, where they party, socialise a lot, and then head off into the forest to actually try to track down the great grandfather of all boars, the infamous Tusker. And they go out there, and really and truly the noble men and women do very little. Everybody else sort of like captures the boar, knocks it down, and then the noble man just sort of like comes up at the end and goes Yee! And kills it and claims responsibility. So the party went off to a wonderful social gathering where Gulliver met a young servant girl, and Bartleby pledged his allegiance to help a merchant guild at the upcoming church council meeting. Harsa scared a whole load of ladies when they were busy talking about the lady of the house, Lady Harmony-Leigh, and Hengist got accosted by various people, including the Right Honourable Reginald, who has had several attacks made on his life and has died several times, but still managed to survive. It was while they were at this socialite, this social gathering, that they was taken to one side and presented by Harmony-Leigh, Lord Ashton's wife, various threats. There were various letters and occurrences that had occurred threatening Harmony-Leigh's life. The party agreed that things were going a little bit too far and that they would investigate it as much as they can. The following day, they went up for luncheon at the house, only to find a headless raven had been killed on Harmony-Leigh's bed. Harsa dashed outside and saw no traces on the grass at all outside the window, and it was a bit worrying what was going on. However, the party had seen on 2 occasions a rather dandy fellow who they now know is called Alfie leaving the villa. They actually bumped into Alfie when he was being Archie, and when he was being accosted by some ruffians. The party jumped in to protect and took the drunkard Archie back to the Hairy Hobgoblin, where Bartleby cured him of his drunkenness and they had a long chat. It was also at the Hairy Hobgoblin that they noticed the servant maid that had befriended Gulliver the day before, and followed her back to a rather small purses and wallets shop. They observed from the outside and then went back on their business. The party then headed up and they met up with Lord Ashton, who was camping out at Reginald's tobacco house, and they decided to split up. Lord Ashton was going off to the boar hunt, so Hengist went with him. Gulliver and Bartleby sat down to start to interrogate the servants of the house, while Harsa kept careful watch outside. It was while he was watching outside that he heard a noise from upstairs, from Harmony-Leigh's room. He turned and ordered some servants to follow him, and got a wonderful crit roll, in the sense that the two maids agreed to follow him, plus other people started to band round him, and he suddenly had an army of 3 people behind him. He went up to the door, Harmony-Leigh's door, and he could hear something better, and he did his brawn roll and burst open the door, and that's where we left that part of the adventure. However, skip over to Hengist. Hengist, Lord Ashton and 4 retainers were on the edge of the clearing awaiting Tusker to come out of the forest. A boar did come out of the forest. It was a small piglet or boarlet. All the guardsmen, all the retainers tried to stab it with their spears with a range of success. Several actually stabbed the ground, and some actually got the piglet. Hengist stepped forward with his sword and pierced a second leg, and Lord Ashton, who wasn't even, the sword was quivering because he's obviously not used to holding up a sword, stepped forward to do the mortal blow. At that precise moment, crossbow bolts shot from the clearing and took out all of the retainers with carefully aimed bolts through essential parts, i.e. necks, heads, etc. They fell to the ground, leaving Hengist in between Lord Ashton and some rather nasty looking assassins who seemed to be wearing black with a red tattoo on the front of twinned snakes. And that is where we left it last time, and I said that we would re-roll the initiative before we came into action. So this is, let me just pull this up here. So this was the scene at Hengist's wonderful activity. So there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4. All these are now deaded. So I'm going to put a cross on them.
Can I just say that on that note, while you're crossing off,
Yeah.
It's a good day not to be a retainer. I'm so glad I stayed behind.
Yeah, I never thought about that actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Good day.
So I'm not taking them off because they are, of course, rough ground now. The little boar is the piglet boar is probably dead as well. Lord Ashton is behind you, Hengist, with his sword out, but if you remember, it's quivering in his hands. The assassins that were, for want of a better word, have come out from the clearing, and it's at this point that I think it'll be a good idea to get your initiative roll. I'm just going to leave Lord Ashton's as it is, and just to let you know, all the assassins will roll 1 and then just actually go on their own actual roll. Let me just
Use luck points.
use some.
I wish. If I had 2 luck points, I would be.
Yeah, what's the time? Oh, yeah.
I might need it after this combat.
There you go. So that's up on there.
We have utmost faith in you.
And let me roll their initiative.
They get a
No,
20.
he's dead.
14. So they will.
So what's your next character going to be then?
Yeah.
What do I play?
You should say that.
I'm immersed.
It's Hengist Mark II.
Yeah. Hengist marked it what? With a shield?
A different voice.
No, Hengist with an axe.
Okay, so that's
It's a
the
trick.
Brown hair instead of blonde.
Get an axe.
that's the initiative at that point. So the assassins have stepped out. You can see from them, Hengist, as they approach you. They seem to have what seems to be almost like light crossbows that are sort of like dangling from their waists. They don't seem to be loaded or anything. They just seem to be hanging there, and you notice instantly that it's actually hanging in the same place for each of the assassins. In the other hand, they are holding just measly daggers. You just roll me a perception check, will you? This is not an action.
Skill.
Yeah, it's not an action, so don't worry. Yeah, they look pretty mean. Unless you want to look point to.
You're not making me spend it.
Yeah, they look pretty mean, and they seem to be smiling, but not showing their teeth. Okay, so before we do anything there, we are going to nip back to just to let Hengist have a quick think about his next actions. We're going to nip back to the setup back at the noble house. So Harsa, you are actually outside the door. We'll say that this is the room. Okay, and I think you got somebody to check the room opposite or something. The door.
That's right, to make sure the kids are okay.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
And you're in front of the door, and you've just burst it open. You passed your brawn roll to bash it in, and it flung open. Bartleby and Gulliver, what are going to be your actions? Because obviously you can hear all this going on. What are you two going to be up to?
Bartleby would probably, hearing commotion and probably considering Hazard was shouting at people to do stuff, he'd make his way out to follow now to see what's going on.
You sound as if you got a sore throat, Mr. Pickles.
Oh,
It's nothing serious, is it?
No. I'm just sounding deeper today, I guess.
Yeah.
Got his manly voice on tonight.
It's manly voice. Yeah, so you sort of like Bartleby sort of like gets up and goes out, and you see Hazra just sort of like disappearing round the top with a couple of maids and a footman with him. So you sort of like start to make your way up there, seeing what's happened. Gulliver, what are you going to be doing?
Gulliver wants to he wants to go to the window, and he wants to look out.
Is this?
He wants to see whether or not there's anybody leaving the.
Okay. Yeah.
This is the front of the house, I take it. So where the grounds.
This part here. Yeah.
Yeah. So this goes to the actual main gates.
Yeah, straight down the front.
Yeah. So he wants to be looking out to see whether or not he can see anybody leaving.
Okay, so you get to the window and look out. You don't need a perception roll to look out of a window, but the actual outside there is actually empty. You take a quick look down the track. There's nobody anywhere along that track down to the gate. Even if they had left exactly the same time, they would have still been going down that track. The other thing that you do notice is that both the front doors of the villa are actually closed. Okay.
Who were we interviewing when we heard the?
Probably one of the maids, I would have thought.
Okay.
Yeah. So Hazra, you burst open this door, and you hear behind you somebody say, "Oh, my lady, I'm so pleased that you're safe," like that. And you burst open the door and you look into it, and it would appear that somebody has climbed through the window. And as they've climbed through the window, they've knocked off something like a vase or some stuff on a dressing table, etc. And you can see that just inside the window, plain as can see, just sort of like fallen over, and he's just sort of like picking himself up, is Archie.
You know.
Right, so we'll nip back to the fight down here as people we get into some action. Okay then, so what's going to happen? I think I'm moving first, am I not? Yeah. Okay then, so they actually, of course, move their movement and come round like this. Oh, I'm missing one. Oh, yeah. So they're on their movement round, they sort of like come towards you, and in the end what they do is just sort of like circle you both on them. They are in combat range. They certainly look like they're about to engage in combat as they come towards you in 14. On 10, which is Lord Ashton Rull. Good grief. He has a willpower of 35, and he actually scored a 34, which means he actually decides to hold onto his sword and almost like face the sort of like the onslaught as it's coming. And he sort of like comes up and he sort of like makes a wild swing on 10 at one of these people. I get a 7. It's not a crit. It's not a crit.
It's a diamond in the rough, is that guy?
I'll take it.
He's not. It's not a crit.
All this handshaking was all a facade.
Yeah.
The best swordsman in Lindo.
He takes a random swing at one of these oncoming assassins, and the assassin actually sees the swing coming. You figure they have some kind of understanding of combat, because rather than trying to parry the blow with the dagger, the assassin just at the last moment rolls and evades it and comes over to rest slightly prone on the ground, but definitely off to one side. So he's actually prone at the moment here. And then, Hengist, it comes to you. What would you like to do?
So Hengist is going to attack the person on his left. So that's probably assuming. Oh, yeah. So he's going to attack, and he's going to use his sword two-handed. Ooh, question.
Yeah.
Hengist has a passion of the double-headed snake. Can he use that to augment his roll?
He certainly can. Which one are you fighting against, by the way? I forgot. The top one.
On my left.
Yeah.
The top one.
Top
one
one.
first.
Yeah.
That's the one it's
Brilliant. Cool.
So it's augment. So it's augmented by a whopping
10. Nice.
10. Stick that in temporary. Makes no difference.
Okay, so you sort of like swing at this person, this approaching assassin, and you probably swing a little bit too soon as he moves into combat with you, and that brings us to the end of combat round turn 1. Sorry, so we're now going into turn 2, but before we do that, we're going to nip back to the situation at the house. Hasra, so you open the door and there before you, on the floor, stumbling and trying to get up, is Archie.
What are you doing here, you fool?
He sort of like looks up, he says, I've come to see the lady. I know she pushed me aside, but I cannot live without her love. Her love, my heart has been pierced by Cupid's arrow.
Archie, enough of this twiddle-twaddle. And with that, Hasra will walk into the room, spear thumping on the floor as she walks forward. It's like a walking stick, like, why have you invaded this lady's bedroom?
Yeah, so you sort of like walk in towards him, and he's sort of like, he's probably on the floor, and he sort of like shuffles back a bit on his bottom, and sort of like hits up against the wall beneath the window, and he sort of like puts one hand out and sort of says, I'm not armed. The only weapon I carry is my love for her lady. Bartleby, as this, you can hear this conversation going on as you come up to the top of the stairs, and you see Harmony-Leigh step out of the room that was opposite where the twins are kept in. And yeah, could you make me a perception check?
I would love to. Heck yeah. 96.
Yeah, okay then. She sort of like walks out, and she's sort of like paused in the middle of the corridor. Make me an insight check.
No, go.
Oh.
Yes, that's better. Okay, you don't see something, but you pick up from her body language that she doesn't seem to be worried or concerned. She seems to be somewhat annoyed. You can see that her fists are clenched by her side, and she's frowning, and she seems to be muttering something to herself. She hasn't seen you at all as you come round the top. What would you like to do?
From Bartleby's limited knowledge of how to interact with nobility and people of high status, would it be appropriate, does he think, to walk in her direction at this point?
That would be completely up to you.
He's good. Yeah, he's gonna potentially make a social gaffe. He's gonna approach.
And do what?
He'll say, "Excuse me, lady. Is everything all right? I heard a noise up here. I saw my cohort rush."
Yeah, and she sort of like, you walk towards her and probably say that as you walk towards her, and she sort of like is taken aback, and she sort of like jumps round to see you there, and you definitely see this look of frustration and annoyance on her face, not directed at you, more directed to what's happening in the room. And she sort of like says, yes, I'm fine, Mr. Bartleby, I am fine. And she sort of like looks back into the room. Gulliver, you are down at the bottom, gazing out of a window. What would you like to do?
Doesn't see anybody with his perception check.
No.
I didn't make a perception check. I'll go in. Do we know where all the shouting came from?
Yeah, I mean, there's down at the bottom of the stairs, there's quite a throng of servants and butlers and things like that, because obviously there's been this commotion, and Harsa came out and ordered people to follow, and other people would have seen that. So there seems to be a little gathering at the bottom of the stairs that you can see.
Gulliver will join the gathering, and he'll say, "What's happened?"
Yeah, and one of the maid sort of like turns around to you and says, "I don't know. They all just went up there. There's some kind of commotion up there. We don't know anything, Petal, don't we?" "Oh no, we don't know anything. We were just here gathering up the sheets. There's such a commotion. And this rather brave and rather domineering person came out with a big long stick and ordered people around, and he was so manly and persuasive. It was, despite him wearing what appeared to be a whole lot of sheets from the washing day, which I'm not too sure what it was."
Oh, right.
Okay, so Gulliver sort of goes, oh, right, and sort of like maintains his position within the throng. Okay, let's zip back to Combat Hill, where
Also known as Little Bighorn.
where all the action is taking place. So we are now on to turn two of the first round, and I think yes, we go first. Okay then, so just to let you know, this guy here, his action will be to get up. And just so you know, I'm just going to roll for him a athletics check. I just want to see how well he does this.
Backflip.
No,
Oh,
fumble.
no.
Yeah, so he sort of like tried to when he sort of like dived for to get out the way of Ashton, he was hoping to sort of like tuck and roll, but he mistimed it already, or his hands hit the floor on a wet piece of grass, and he sort of like stumbled forward. So he didn't do it very well, but on his next action, he gets up, so he is now stood up. Right, this person in front of you, Hengist, goes like that, and from his pierced lips shoots out a spray of liquid. He's going to try and hit you in the face with it. Oh yeah. Oh.
It's fine. COVID-19, he's got a face mask, he's got gloves.
He's got a breathing pack, airtight, and an astronaut.
Zaz has just said in the chat, COVID-19 attack.
2319.
Yes, what would you like to do?
Help me, I'm melting.
Hengist is going to use his luck point and ask you to re-roll. I'm sorry, it was...
No, that's absolutely fine. I don't mind at all. That is
And he
what...
gets a one.
Sorry, are we finishing soon? Sorry.
Scared of what it is?
Yes, so I still hit. Hit. Do you wish to take any action? You can probably not parry this with your sword.
That's what I was thinking. I can't parry. So it's going to have to be either be an evade or...
Or an evade. Evade or take it.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, the tension is killing me.
Sorry, which one is it? Which one is it attacking? Because this is going to make the difference.
The one,
north one or the south one?
The one that you tried to hit.
Oh, the one that I tried to hit. Okay.
No, not that one. This one.
Yeah, the top one.
Yeah.
In which case he would have been looking in that direction, so he probably would have seen it more. So he will try and evade.
Okay then.
Because he doesn't know what this thing is.
So his roll is 57. So you need higher than 57. No.
That's not going to happen.
Oh, he fails it. And this, he sort of like, he tries to get out the way, but just as he starts to move, you start to move a little bit too quickly, and the liquid spurts straight into your face, going through visors and whatever, straight into your eyes. Could you make for me, please? Let me just check on this. I think off the top of my head it's endurance. Could you make me an endurance check, just to let you know that the potency, all poisons have potencies, and that potency is the level that you have to beat. So say for example the potency of something was 20. As long as you got above 20, then you'll survive. You're not a problem. Obviously, if your endurance is 20 and the potency is 15, sorry, 50, then you're not going to resist it ever. You know, and that's it. So I know what the potency is. I'll tell you what the potency.
I don't want to know.
Roll it then. Roll it. Endurance. This is. Is this not an action point? It's a very good roll.
It was 79.
No, it was 75. So, you got it by 3.
Oh, what a superstar!
He just takes it,
and it's a sort of like it comes into your face, and you feel it sort of like contact your skin, and you feel your skin getting very hot and very sort of like swelling, etc. You figure it's some kind of poison, and that hits you on contact. So you're not too sure what it is, but it managed to, your eyes managed to resist it. You are made of sturdy stuff,
Just managed to blink in time.
Mr. Hengist. Yeah. So you remember your evade would take an action point.
Yep.
Okay. So now this one behind you takes a swing at you. Ka-chunk. And hits with his dagger. You can parry, or if you wish.
So if I parry, I have
Is
to
he
get
prone
the
though?
same... Yeah, I evaded and I missed, so am I prone?
No, because you... Chugawugga, correct me on this. I think you failed your evade roll, so if you evade, are you still prone?
Oh, I don't know, to be honest.
Oh, hang on then. I will check. Because if you are prone, then I don't need to roll my to hit roll.
That's the incentive, mate, for people evade all the time.
Oh, because he's prone, yeah. Let me just check how combat works. I'm just trying to find it. Evading, here we go. Protecting yourself in these situations often the best. Evasion attempts requires an opposed roll of the attacker's skill versus the evasion skill of the defender. This could be anything. Okay, if the winner of the opposed roll achieves one or more levels of success over his opponent, they may select a suitable special effect as per normal. Evading may be made more difficult. So. Evading is, however, I can't. In the case of evading, provides only temporary respite, preventing the prone character nothing. But yeah, so
I'm on the Reddit and it says still prone.
Right, cool.
Well, that's what Reddit says anyway. If you want to just
no, I'm absolutely happy to go with that. That's not a problem at all. So you are still prone, and so he sort of like brings his weapon down on you. You can probably still parry from your prone position, but it will be a difficulty level harder because you're on the ground.
No, Hengist won't parry. He's trying to. He's fallen awkwardly. He's like tried to dive away, and has
Okay then. So he, this person, flies down with his dagger. That means I will have a special. So could you please make a roll, your combat style roll? My roll is 75. You need to beat that.
I can't, with using the two-handed sword, which is the one I'm using in this combat. I can't. I've got 71 max, and that's with my augment.
Yeah, but you might get a crit.
Oh yeah, that's true.
No. Okay then. So he sort of like lashes down at you. You bring your sword up to try to parry this little dagger blow, but you suddenly realise that he wasn't aiming for your sword at all. His special is to disarm you, and it flies down and it just sort of like whacks your hand. His damage modifier isn't huge. So it literally falls. I just need to do this. Come on. He sort of like flicks it with his thing and your sword scatters. It's now 2 meters away from you. You see this happening, and then this other one here seems to at the same time open his mouth and spit out this poison into Lord Ashton's face. My roll is so small. Come on, roll, you swine. Oh, there you go. Yeah, and he sort of, both, I'll take the first one, 21. Yeah, and this sort of like goes straight into Lord Ashton's face, and he actually gets a 45, and you suddenly hear him screaming as he brings his hands up to his eyes, and he's sort of like writhing about. That would be all of their actions. So Lord Ashton is now just wildly flying around. He's screaming with his hands over his eyes. And Hengist, we're down to you.
With his last action point for this round, Hengist will stand up.
Okay, so you sort of like find your feet once more and actually come up from your prone position, swordless. Da da da.
One of those chains on your wrist.
Yeah, like you put your mitts on when you were little, and you had your mittens with a piece of string around.
I always liked having like a sash or something that you could loop around and tie in a knot so you could let go, and it's just hanging there, and then you could just pick it up again. But
do you know what you need to do? The Henry Cavill reload.
I think if disarm was used and you had a piece of sash there, I think what I would say is that's what's cut.
Yeah.
You know, so right. Let's nip back now before we hit the last last round there. Let's come back to the town, the villa. Hasra, you sort of like stomped over with your spear. You're sort of like stood.
I tend to make more of a presence of banging as I walk towards him to like intimidate, but I don't. In that sort of sense, my character will be walking forward.
And he sort of like backs up as you come towards him, and you sort of like end up as close as you want to be with him.
What are you doing here, Archie? I know you say you have unacquainted love or whatever it is to do with this lady, but show me what you have in your pockets. Empty your pockets out now.
Yeah, and the first thing you notice, Hasra, is that he's wearing the same clothes as you've always seen him in. He seems to be always in these clothes, and he says, I have no weapons. He doesn't seem to have any noticeable weapons, but please do make a perception roll at this point.
Certainly. Hasra's concern is making. Oh my! Hasra's concern is making sure he's not got a dead dog in there somewhere.
No,
He
sort of like he says, "I have no weapons. I only have," and he seems to start reaching for the split in his doublet to sort of like get something.
Once he starts doing that, Hasra will kick the bottom of his spear, which will then bring it backwards behind him, and then he will. A spear point will be pointed towards his chest.
Yeah, he sort of like reacts and sort of like takes his hands away, and he says, "It is only a gift for my lady."
Very slowly, take it out.
And he sort of like
hold it.
He goes, yes, yeah. And he sort of like reaches in and he brings out what appears to be now a very limp rose. And he sort of like pulls it out, and the stem has been snapped, with all the activity, and several of the petals either get caught on his doublet as he put it on, sort of like, or falls to the floor. And he sort of like looks at it, and he goes, "Everything is going so wrong." And a little tear appears in the corner of his eye and starts to drip down. And Bartleby, what would you like to do?
I presume both of us can hear the thumping noises coming from within the room.
Oh, yes, most definitely. You're probably in front of the door now and seeing what's happening as well.
To the Lady Harmony-Leigh, then, Bartleby will say, Master Hengist would want me to help with whatever is up to in there. Please allow me to excuse myself. And then
she sort of like looks at you and sort of like waves a hand. And are you going inside?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay then. So you can move yourself inside. Okay.
Presumably, seeing all this, Bartleby would probably say something like, "Oh, Amriel, help me! What is going on here?"
And Gulliver, you're stood at the bottom of the stairs, with within the throng of the maids and the butlers. What would Gulliver like?
Is there any gossip going on?
Oh, there is. Lots of people are talking between themselves.
Gulliver's hoping that, or he's going to stay within the throng and occasionally sort of like say things to see whether or not anybody sort of like gives more information about what might have been happening, over the last few days. Whether or not there's any extra gossip going along.
Okay, make for me a perception check.
Everything's changed. The card sheets have changed. That's weird. Perception. 51.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of talk about who could be in the room, because nobody sort of like has seen who's in there or anything at the moment, and there's a lot of idle gossip about who actually could be in there. There is sort of like you hear various names on the as they sort of like quietly whisper to each other, and you're sort of like straining to hear them. Believe it or not, Reginald's name comes up on several occasions, and sort of like said, "I don't think he'll be able to climb the window up to the window, my dear," or something like that. Archie's name does come up a couple of times, and you hear a phrase that somebody says, I would have known it would end up like this. That's sort of like one of the phrases that comes up. The other phrase that you hear is about the slave girl, Bonnie, and somebody sort of like says, "Oh, I don't put it past that girl to do something like this. You know how much she hates her ladyship." And there's a sort of like that, and you sort of like pick all this up as you go through. So just to let all the players know, what I'm doing is that I'm letting you have an action, then I give you your reply, and then you've got time to think before it comes back round to you. Okay, so that's what you hear, Gulliver, so you can have a think, and we're going to go straight over to the final combat round, I think. And this will be turn.
Sorry, can I just say that sounds very ominous? The final combat round.
Yeah. Okay then. So this guy here has no action points left because he moved and he has then used another one to sort of like stand up, and he used one to evade out of the way, so he's done. This one here used one to get to you and one to spit poison at you, and I don't think he parried your attack.
No, I missed.
You missed, yeah. So he still has one, and the other two below have one. So you can probably work out that they have three. This is the first. This is the attack at you. Now I got out this because I was really interesting. Okay then. Yeah, so what I'm saying is that you're not incapable of defense or anything, so it's just one level easier for me to actually hit you now, because you don't have that movement on the ground, etc. So
he stood up.
Yeah. Oh yes, you
My
stood
last
up.
action was
Yeah.
to stand up.
Oh, brilliant. So yeah, so it'll just be my normal roll as he swipes at you. Yeah, he hits. Oh,
You can't do anything.
Oh, so yeah, so I get a special. So can you please roll for me either your brawn, evade, or acrobatics? It's completely up to you which one you go for.
I don't have acrobatics. So was it brawn or athletics?
Brawn, evade, or acrobatics?
Brawn then.
Brawn. Yeah, and this guy sort of like comes with you from one side with this dagger, almost like coming in a circular motion round to hit where your head is. And he seems to be turning his body, and what you don't see is his leg. As it comes round and it hits your leg, trips opponent on you, that was your brawn, evade, or athletics roll, and knocks you straight down onto the floor.
You've discovered specials, haven't you?
Well, can I just say, I think I've given you lot enough time.
You've held back for like 2 years. It's like,
Yeah.
have it.
Now comes my second attack from this one here. He rolls his...
So I'm prone, so don't you just get an automatic attack in
a... yes, thank you.
And I have no action points.
Okay then. So... Okay, so you're sort of like down on the ground, and this one seems to raise his dagger up, goes to almost like strike down at you, but at the last minute twists his body and almost like lands on one of your arms, pinning it and gripping it. If you wish to come out of that, you need to make a brawn roll. I'm just going to roll his unarmed combat to see what we actually get. Yeah, so his roll for that is 37, so that'll be the attack roll to do. And yeah, so he's now gripped your right arm. It is now firmly held down by this assassin. You also, as you're sort of like lying there, you see the other assassin roll his fist at Lord Ashton. Lord Ashton tries to defend and fails to get his sword upon time, and there's an almighty sort of like whack as this assassin seems to backhand his dagger on the way round and just hits Lord Ashton straight on the head. He then, with his special, flurries, and so he sort of goes bash on one side, and then he brings his fist round and whacks Lord Ashton again with his... Oh, poor Lord Ashton does not make his brawn roll, his endurance roll with a 20, and he sort of goes boom, and this guy goes clutching like that, and Lord Ashton totters a bit and falls down to the ground. You don't think he's dead, but he's definitely mighty still. And the final thing that happens is that this person moves into combat. And that's the end of combat round 1. So we're going into combat round 2 in a second when we come back. But meanwhile, let's go back to...
Meanwhile...
I think you've got one defensive, Longshanks, just so you know, mate.
Them right where I want them.
It's fine.
Okay.
Part of the plan.
The can of sardines.
Hasra. So Archie's here with this,
This
this
limp.
feeble
I do
rose.
feel say you can get a blue tablet for that, you know.
Yeah.
Hasra will look at Archie, and with a little squint of his eye and a little clench of the jaw, Hasra will say, "Go, and do not ever come back here again. I know where you live, Archie. I have seen what you do. I know the people that are after you."
And he sort of like looks at you because he's down on the floor, and he looks at the door, and he looks at the window, and he looks at the door, and he looks at the window as if to say,
Does Hasra see him do this?
Yes.
In that case, Hasra will be back the way you came.
and he sort of like says, roll for me. Let's have an appropriate skill. Do you have intimidation? Is there intimidation in this game? I just wish there was at this point. I think it's.
I should have it just my presence. Can I have it on like survival combat? No. Would you like me to do
have
another?
it on inside.
No, it's not insight. It's influence, isn't it? Normally,
Yeah, do it
which
on.
is my worst skill ever.
But I will give you. I'll
Well, let me roll it, and I'll let you decide. Okay.
Okay,
I'm going to roll it. So influence.
It might be no matter what.
Oh, do you know what? I will, because I'm in the moment. I'm going to use a point of luck to re-roll that, if that's okay.
Go for it.
Oh, I can't use the point of luck to reverse it.
And
can I?
he sort of like backs up a bit. You sort of like leave the way you came, and he sort of like looks at, and as he looks, he almost like sees past you and has a sudden burst of confidence and energy, and he shouts out, holding out this rose that slowly is still drooping and loses a couple of more petals, holds it out and says, "Harmony, my love, I am here." And Harmony, but you, Hasra and Bartleby, you'll probably go like that to sort of like look around, and you see both of you make an insight roll for me. Oh, Bartleby's on form. He knows how.
Oh.
So influence and insight is not your.
No.
So Bartleby, you look at her, and honestly, she looks fuming, absolutely fuming, and she turns towards the room on the opposite side, and she shouts. She says, "Girls, get your bags. We are leaving." Like that, and starts moving, not even waiting for her twins to follow her. She starts to march down, and Gulliver, you're down there, and you see Harmony-Leigh marching towards him. What would you like to do?
Marching towards where, sorry?
Well, she's marching. She's come to the top of the landing, so she's about to come down the stairs.
Gulliver's. What do the rest of the servants do? Does it look like that?
Well, it's almost like a philosopher, a scene from Exodus. You know, they sort of like see her there, and it's like the parting of the Red Sea, and they're sort of like going like that, and almost like preempting her actually going down the. Does that make sense? And several of them are doing a bob curtsy, and some of them, the men are just sort of like getting to the end side.
Gulliver's going to try to hide behind some other people to try to find like the groundsman or something like that who's a bit more broad shouldered.
Okay then, yeah. Just roll your conceal for me.
Conceal.
Oh yeah, you sort of like pick a rather broad person and slip in behind as Harmony-Leigh comes down, and she seems to be muttering to herself.
Can I see whether I can see what she's actually saying?
Yeah, roll your perception check.
Perception. I'm going to use a point of luck to re-roll that.
Okay. Yeah, and as she comes around, just when you try to listen, somebody else is talking in front of you, and you sort of like say, "Shut up," you know, and they sort of say, "Oh, sorry," like that, and you hear Harmony-Leigh coming down, and it's really strange what you're hearing. She seems to be. It's almost like she's talking to herself. And she's sort of like muttering, and you get glimpses of what she's saying, but not the whole sentences, etc. And you notice that she uses the phrase "stupid boy" a lot, but she also changes the adjective "stupid" to, but she always sticks with "boy," and she mutters something about telling him not to come back. And she also says to herself, when will she learn? She's almost like chastising. Is that the right word? Chastising, herself, as if she's done something really, really stupid. And then that's it. And while that's going on, we will nip back over to combat round.
Hengist is like, no, just stay there. Nothing to see here.
No. Total opposite, Azra.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope so.
To find and avenge his sister.
Yeah, okay then. So you'll currently have your right arm pinned to the ground. Your sword is quite a distance off. You're prone on the ground. This one makes an attack at you. He seems to sort of by leaping up. He's got his dagger in his... well, let me turn all my action points around. He has his dagger in his hand. And he's going to do that. And yes, this dagger's coming straight for you. What would you like to do?
I'm down and I'm already on the ground.
You can try to make an unarmed parry of it if you wish.
No, I can't. I won't succeed. Well, unless I get a crit.
Why don't you just show them your neck? Give them the target. Where's this famed warrior we heard
Hengist
about?
will attempt to, with his left hand, throw his left hand up to try and block. Let's see what happens.
Okay then, so roll your unarmed combat for me.
No, he got a 90. He failed.
Okay then, just let me check one thing that I like to do.
Bypass armor. No!
No. It's. I just want. I didn't know whether or not it. I wanted to damage weapon.
It's a shame you can't roll in your armor and just run over them all.
Actually, he's not going to damage armor because he's won. So he's going to whack this this dagger down on you, and he's going to use impale So he'll be able to do it twice and take the maximum amount of damage, whichever one it is. So first things first, I will have come on, dice roller. This is coming down into your 11.
11 is square in my chest.
Nice, perfect. As it comes down. So this is just a feeble dagger. Okay, what damage does a dagger do?
400. No, that's
1d4 plus 1.
1d4 plus 1. So I'm
1d1 plus 1.
So I'm rolling a 1d6 and then adding my 1 to it. So the first roll is 2. Heavens, I impaled. Second roll is a 6.
Ooh, it just finds a chink in the armor.
And it sort of like comes down and sort of like right. And you notice something. You notice something as this dagger comes down, and you're quite confident. You sort of like think, you've done jousting and fake combats with daggers all the time, and they can't come through your armor. You unless they find a little chink. But as this comes down, you notice that as it sort of like hits your breastplate, there's a faint glow over it. And there seems to be some kind of magic on it. And it sort of like slips through, and probably, how much damage are you taking in your chest? It's probably just a minor wound.
It's 1. Yeah,
and you suddenly see it come back. This dagger is now in you because you're impaled. Okay then, so the guy on your arm, okay, he maintains his grip. That's his action. The guy behind you, who what did he do last round?
He moved.
Moved. Yeah.
He'll Hengist.
Yeah. He takes off his mask, and it's it is I. Okay. So he flies his dagger down at the same time, and he will hit you.
Yeah, Hengist will try and parry again.
Okay.
Or block with his unarmed combat.
Go for it.
Nope.
Yeah, and he sort of like comes down, and he's going to impale as well. Oh no, actually he's not. He's going to choose location and hit your chest, which is the same place as the other guy hit. So he's just going to roll a 1d6 plus 1 and 3 points, which probably gets absorbed and sort of like trying to. You do notice that his blade is glowing as well. This guy seems to come up to Lord Ashton. If you remember, he went da last time and knocked him out. He kicks his sword away and just puts his foot on the guy's, on Lord Ashton's neck. Yeah, just a little bit further up. That's 14 on. Lord Ashton's out for the count. Hengist, you have a 9. What would you like to do? Do you have any action points left?
Hengist does have action points. He's still got 2 left. Hengist is going to... question, do I try and get the out of me?
Have you got 2 left or 1 left? Because you made 2 unarmed combat.
1, yeah. My fault, 1. Thank you. Do I try and get the dagger out of my chest? No, Hengist is going to try and shake the chap who's pinning his arm off.
Okay, so that is a brawn. No, it's a brawn or unarmed combat roll. It's completely up to you which one you use.
Hengist will probably try and use his brawn.
Okay, so the original dice roll is 37.
Yes.
Yeah, so
he uses his strength. He hits with his right hand, and then at the same time he brings his left hand over and tries to roll the chap off him.
Yeah, and he sort of like, you flick him nicely, and he sort of like releases his grip, so you've got both arms free at the moment. And that's the end of combat turn 1, and we're going back.
Ooh, no, do I? Hang on. If I'm on the floor, isn't it one step harder? If I'm prone, then I've been impaled as well.
Oh yes, so you don't get him.
Formidable, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't get him a thing. Okay then, so we're going back to the actual house. So Hasra, you're up.
Hearing him shout out to Honey-Leigh and seeing Honey-Leigh and Harmony-Leigh, sorry,
Harmony-Leigh.
Walk away. He will look again at Archie. Look what you have done. You have sullied this woman's name.
And Archie sort of like looks at, roll your influence, go for it.
Too many windows. Go on. Influence, sorry.
It's all right.
That one. Oh, do you know what? I'm giving a last point of luck. I'm going to
Well, you can just reverse it, yeah.
I'm going to reverse
and
it,
he sort of like, you notice that tears well up in his eyes, and he says, and he sort of like slowly gets to his feet, and he's got hold of the rose, and he just drops it as he walks backwards to the window and says, my life is nothing without Harmony-Leigh. And he just leans backwards and tipple-tails head first out the window.
Not blamed for this one.
Husband's going, I didn't push him.
Well, my original thought was to throw a spear at him, so I'm fine.
Yes. So Archie goes out the back of the window. And Bartleby, you see this happening. What would you like to do?
Catch him.
We could have just put a blanket over his head and let him out. Bartleby's gonna run to try and see if he can deliver any medical attention.
Yeah, so you take your action to run over there and look. Are you going to the window and looking down? I presume?
No, going outside.
Oh, you're going out. So you sort of like
it'll take a while.
Start to sort of like walk, run out, and Gulliver, you see Bartleby coming to the top of the stairs. Harmony-Leigh walks past everyone. She seems to be coming to this room here, Gulliver. You're not too sure what it is, but you think it might be either a dining room or sitting room or library or something like that. What would you like to do?
Are the servants still gossiping, or they...
Well, they've sort of like moved aside to let Harmony-Leigh past, and they're all sort of like bowing, and she's just sort of like muttered and gone past them. So
and then they all start to sort of like murmur again.
It's up to you. You can, if you want to wait until they all start to.
He wants to wait until they sort of like all come together, and then he wants to try to use his influence role on the gossipers of the band, and he wants to say something like, so what does Lord Ashton think of all these male visitors that the lady's having?
Okay, then roll your influence roll.
I will use a point of luck to roll that again.
Okay.
Influence.
Yeah, and you sort of like lean forward to the two girls who are busy talking, and they sort of like ignore you the first time, but you sort of like give them one of your boyish smiles, and sort of like they notice your freckles and think, oh bless him, and the fact that you're ginger as well, and they almost like take pity on you and sort of like actually converse with you. And the first thing they say is they sort of like get close to you and says, Lord Ashton doesn't know at all. We know this for sure because the men only come round when he's out. But there hasn't been a man, well, since, Bonnie's father. He was the last one. But this new point, Alfie or Archie, whatever it goes, oh, he was certainly after one thing only. It's a pause to let you reply if you wish to.
No, he's just going to listen to the gossip.
Oh, no, they're talking to you.
Oh, sorry, what did they say?
What, do you want it all again?
No, just the last bit that I was replying to.
They sort of like say about it's the last one took, since the last one, and Lord Ashton's always out the house, and Archie's, is the new one that they've seen.
So he's going to say, well, how many has there been?
And one of them giggles and sort of like says, well, I don't know, but we, quite frankly, have lost count.
He's going to leave it at that.
Okay, then. And that's everybody over there done. So we are going to zip back to pinned Hengist on the floor. And this is combat round 2, turn 2. So the guy here, the one who's impaled you, he doesn't seem to be bothered about his dagger. He grapples with you on the floor and uses his unarmed skill, and he tries to grab hold of your arm to pin you down as well, but he misses by 3 points. And the guy behind who tried to hit his dagger but didn't penetrate, he sees the one on the side miss your arm, and he goes in to try to capture that arm. Yeah, and he actually grapples it. Do you wish to do anything?
Hengist will try and use his action point to resist the grapple. Can you do that?
So how many action points have you got left?
1.
Okay, then.
So the last action point.
So you had 2 unarmed hit attacks, and then you you broke 3 of the...
Have I? Hang on.
You had
sorry, beg your pardon.
Yeah.
I had removed my dice.
Yeah, so he sort of like goes down and he grabs your arm on a successful attack and sort of like pins you down. And while you're down there, you hear a ripping sound. And you notice from Lord Ashton, one of the assassins has sort of like ripped open Lord Ashton's doublet at the top, sort of like exposing his chest. And yeah, you hear that from the side. This person here reapplies his unarmed, his grip to you. And yeah, and so sort of like pins your arm down, and you're sort of like well and truly pinned now. You would have to roll brawn to release yourself. They've still got another action left, but I don't think you have any. No. So you are just sort of like pinned there, your armor being of no great use to you at the moment, and even a glowing dagger still stuck in your breastplate. And we'll nip back to the house. Okay, Hasra, you're up first.
Hasra's seeing Archie jump out the window.
Well,
fall out the window. Do a swan song.
Rather dramatically, I thought.
Yeah. He'd be like, he'll shake his head like, you stupid man. And with that, he will then move back into the corridor to see what the servants are doing. And he will also look forward into the room to make sure the children are safe.
Yeah, so you look out the window. Did you say you're looking out the window to see where?
No, I saw him topple out.
Yeah, so you just go.
He had no chance of. He wasn't holding on. He wasn't climbing down. He literally just did a pirouette down or whatever.
Yeah, so
and he shook his head and then walked towards the kids' bedroom to look in there to make sure that they're safe.
Yeah, they seem incredibly safe, and they seem to be throwing something in bags and seem to be clothes and things like that. Just roll an insight roll for me.
Certainly. Inside my bestial. Yeah.
Yeah, they just seem
playing.
They just seem to be ramming in random stuff, and that's it. Bartleby, what? You're going to be moving through round and round to the back of the house, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm rushing to see if I can.
So you'll probably get out the front door at this round, and Gulliver.
So Gulliver wants to detach himself from the other servants, and he wants to see whether or not he can move to maybe get a look in.
Yeah. And it seems that Harmony-Leigh has gone into the door and almost like flung it open, and you can see inside. She seems to be against a cabinet. It's a bit like a drawing room in there, and she's unlocking something that appears to have a key round her neck. And you notice that she unlocks something and brings out what appears to be like a strong box, a little one, a bit like a jewelry case, sort of like size. And she brings it out, and she leaves the drawer open. A chair falls over as she turns around and starts to march out. And she just leaves that, and she turns around and she's heading out towards the door. And that, I know it's only 29 minutes past, but that seems to be a good time to stop it, so we can take our break. We will take a 10-minute break now, so please go off, wash your hands, keep 2 meters away from anybody that you shouldn't be with. Make sure you grab a drink and something to eat if you need it, and we will be back in 10 minutes, so it'll be 22 the hour. Okay, hope you're enjoying the adventure so far, and we will be back in 10. See you soon. Be right back.
Give us money and run.
We are back. We are. How exciting is this? I'm on the edge of my seat.
Me too.
So just to let you know, there's the villa escapade. Bartleby's going around to try to save Archie's life. Bartleby, it's like Harsa is doing a lot of attempts to influence and intimidate, etc., and there's checked up all up on the stairs. Gulliver's busy chatting and listening into conversation and watching Harmony-Leigh, and poor Hengist
is lying down on the job.
Is lying down on the job, completely overpowered, etc. Lord Ashton is next to you, out cold, and we're going to start with this scene where we are at the moment, which is the Hengist scene.
And the Hengist is singing, "If I had Hazra,
if I had a Bartleby, I would be alive." Yeah. So anyway, I thought somebody said something then. So you're sort of like there, Hengist pinned down, and Lord Ashton's over to one side, and you're suddenly aware of another person, and he seems to be talking quite eloquently, and he sort of like comes from the bush, the edge of the forest, as he talks, and you hear his voice approaching, and he sort of like walks forward and he says, well, it looks like her ladyship was quite correct. And what comes into view, a rather tall man, over 6 foot, probably about 6'2", 6'3", but not tall and lanky at all. Tall and very broad and very strong. he has a similar attire as the other assassins, apart from his the shirt sleeves have been ripped off to say almost like making a t-shirt sort of like look. And he sort of like, he has daggers by his side, and he also has this light crossbow dangling from his left hip. He also seems to have some kind of satchel on across, going across his body and down to one side. And he actually walks in and sort of like positions himself almost like over you, sort of like looking down. I'm just going to put a red dot on him so you know it's
He's the big boss man.
Yeah, and he sort of like looks down at you, and you're sort of like pinned down and maybe struggling, trying to get up, and he sees the dagger planted in your chest through your armor, and he sort of like looks down and he sort of like says, "Who did that?" And what one of the assassins sort of like look up, and he says, "Well done. It was very close to his heart. Shame about the old tin armor he's wearing." And he sort of like looks across and sees Lord Ashton there, and he says, "Oh, the quarry, the target." And he sort of like, you struggle to watch him as he moves round, and he sort of like looks at the assassin next to him and sort of like says, "Is he dead?" And the other assassin sort of like shakes his head, and he says, "Right, probably just as well he's unconscious." And he opens the satchel, and he brings out what appears to be a metal plate. It's very thin, and it seems to have carved out of the middle the symbol that they have on their attire, like two rearing cobras sort of like looking and facing each other. And he sort of like fiddles with it for a while, and then he sort of like looks at you, Hengist, and he sort of like says, "No questions at all then?"
Hengist will look at him sort of like through his helmet, while still trying to struggle, and say, "So who sent you?"
And he's sort of like, you're quite, just roll an insight roll for me, please.
Insight.
Yeah, he seems to be very blasé about everything. He's almost like got that feeling that he's untouchable, and almost like he can tell you anything because there's nothing on this world that you could actually do about it. He's so confident about everything, and so, you know, almost like do or say what you want. And you, I think, what did you say? Who sent you?
Yeah.
He sort of like says, "My good man, we are assassins. We don't get sent. We get ordered before or after payment."
So who
sent
ordered
you?
the assassination?
"Well, of course. Do you not know?" "Of course." And he looks down at Lord Ashton and he says, "Lord Ashton's wife."
I just meet sort of like stunned silence from Hengist. That's not who he was.
You
expecting.
role played that very well.
It's also like he sort of like goes, "Oh,
"Oh, indeed." Well, she paid very handsomely for her husband's demise, but she did mention that there might be others present, although we were somewhat surprised just to find one, although her clever plan might have worked. She knew Lord Ashton was getting some extra help, so she did a bit of misdirection, making us, you, assume that she was the threat, the person under the threat, when of course it was nobody, not her at all, because it was her who took out the contract to dispose of her husband.
Yes, well, she seemed to have had everything thought out.
Oh, yes. And she paid very handsomely, extremely handsomely. The lady was a very, very rich, well, she still is a very rich woman. But it would appear that she is going to have a little bit more, shall we say, investments now.
Yes, I suppose she'll be in charge of House Calottes now.
Oh. Your brain cells are working, and there we were thinking you were just a tin man. Yes, she pretty soon, once her husband becomes the late Lord Ashton, she will inherit the house and everything. Don't worry, we won't kill her as well. She is a valuable asset that we have ourselves, and she is extremely wealthy.
Yes, well, we'll see.
And as you say, we'll see. We'll nip back to what's going on with the house. And first of all, Bartleby, we're going to come to you. You arrive out of breath down at the bottom of the window. I just need to roll this. Yeah, and he's sort of like, Archie has fallen backwards, if you remember, from the window, and unluckily he didn't actually turn. He just went straight down head first, and as you approach, you notice that his neck's at a slightly funny angle, and there's a pool of blood slowly spreading from under his skull. You can see that there's a nasty indentation on his skull. Well, quite a big indentation, because when he fell, he actually hit his head on a stone vase on the way down. So hit that first and then bounced off into the onto the pavement. Make a healing or first aid roll for me, please.
I'm going to give you healing, and it's right here. 23 out of 55.
Yeah, he is definitely defunct.
Well, in that case, Bartleby is going to take off like a coat or something he has on to cover up Archie's face before trying to decide what he wants to do about this.
Yeah, and you
dead
sort
body
of like put it over him and sort of like slowly lower it down on his face, and he seems he's died with such sadness, as if he's been completely rejected, and this was the only way. His life almost like became not important anymore as he threw himself from the window. Let's now move to Gulliver. Gulliver, what would you like to do?
The Gulliver's keeping an eye on Lady.
Yeah, she's coming out, clutching this box.
Okay, so he's going to sort of like try to keep to one side of the pillar to see where she heads with it.
Yeah, just roll your conceal roll for me.
Conceal again, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, you sort of like move yourself around, and Harmony-Leigh comes to the bottom of the stairs. She seems somewhat flustered, and she calls for her girls' names. And Hazra, you hear this, and they just sort of like pick up their bags, and you sort of like start walking down. They sort of like come past you and start heading down the stairs. And
as soon as they walk past me, we're like, where are you going, children? Should you not stay in your room?
Yeah, and you've heard their mother call their names, and they just sort of like say, "Mummy's called us," and sort of like carry on down the stairs towards Harmony-Leigh. And yeah, Hazra, what would you like to do?
Follow them, definitely.
Yeah, so you sort of like walk down the stairs a few steps behind them, and they sort of like go to their mother, and Gulliver, you can see this as well. And Perry, the butler, is there, and she sort of like shouts, "Perry!" like this, and Perry sort of like comes over and says, "Yes, my ladyship." She says, "We are going to stay at my mother's for some time. Please get in touch when everything is in order." And he looks a bit puzzled and sort of like says, "Yes, my lady," sounding very much like the butler of Thunderbirds. And with almost like a wish of her cape, she sort of like says, "Girls, with me." And she sort of like starts heading towards the door, and as she gets close to a footman's there, and the footman, she sort of like shouts and says, "Ben, carriage now." And he sort of like nods, and they walk out towards the front door.
Just before she gets out the front door, Harsa wants to say, or call out, "Lady, there is something I need to tell you."
And you sort of like say this to her, and she just sort of like completely ignores you, as if to say, "Sorry, you are a retainer. You know, I do not need to answer to you." You know, and you actually, Gulliver, you probably hear this as well. When you actually address her, there's almost like a in the crowd.
The room.
Yeah, and they one of the maids sort of like prods you and says, we are not allowed to address the ladyship in such a manner."
Then my apologies. I am from the country. I do not know your ways of the city. Thank you for your advice. I will keep my mouth quiet now.
And she leaves the front of the villa. And yeah, back to Hengist. Hengist, is there anything you would like to say or do?
Yes.
Ooh.
Hengist is he'll pause for a moment after that like half conversation and then say, "What have you done with my sister?"
And for the first time ever, the guy almost like loses his state of confidence, etc., and sort of like says, "Sorry, your sister?" And he seems to be kneeling down, and he's sort of like busying himself with something as he talks to you. And he says, "Trust me, I would not know your sister even if she came up to me and slapped me one."
Strange, because it was your group that stole her nearly a year ago from across the sea.
Oh, our group is vast. We do not know everyone. I assure you, that's like a druid expecting to know every tree in a forest. He takes out, he's laid this metal plate across Lord Ashton's chest, and he seems to have a little glass vial that is stoppered, and it has wax sealed around the top of it.
Hengist will say, how vast is vast? And can I hide?
And it's almost like this guy becomes lyrical.
It's vast.
And he sort of like says, more than blades of grass in a field, more than leaves in a forest, more than air itself. And he takes his dagger and he cuts off the wax and unstoppers the thing. And
did he answer? Is he going to answer the second half? Because Hengist asked a question after that. He said, "Can I hire you?"
Yeah, and he's just sort of like looks at you and he says, "Of course, if you have enough money." And he pours it over the thing, and there's this sizzling noise, and suddenly this smell of burning flesh. And as he pours this acid over the metal plate, but because it's like a stencil, it actually burns into Lord Ashton's chest, and he sort of like finishes it off, and he sort of like takes the metal bit and slips it back into the satchel, and sort of like puts the bottle down. He draws his own dagger, and he's talking to you all the time. He's saying this, Hengist, and he says, "Of course you can hire us. That we're in the business, but only for wet work. We don't do anything else than kill people, for we are assassins." And he raises his dagger and he plunges it straight down through Ashton's throat, and pushes it right down. And then he actually puts his hand on the top and he twists it slightly and then pushes it further down. And you can hear, as well as you smell burning flesh, you also hear the gargling as the blood slowly starts to fill up Lord Ashton's throat. He was unconscious, but he was still breathing, and you can hear some noises.
Drowning.
Yeah, and he sort of like the guy stands up and he sort of like says to you, Hengist, he says, "I hope you're not going to do anything silly when we leave."
Depends what you mean by silly.
Well, following us.
I see.
Well, if you choose to, maybe there is one little piece of information that I can give you. This is only one half of my assassin band. The others hide in the trees. Currently, they have their crossbows aimed at yourself. One move, and they have orders to release. And believe me, even if they do not pierce your armor, what they are tipped with, you will definitely feel the effect. And he sort of like leans a little bit closer to you. He opens his mouth and smiles, and you notice that the canines are actually pointed, as if they've been filed down to be like not like huge dog fangs, but almost like vampire fangs, but almost like snake fangs. You also notice, as he leans down, as well as this motif on his chest, you also notice that on this guy, down his neck, seems to be tattooed scales. snake scales. It looks like it's actually drawn onto his skin, and it doesn't look like it's washable off. It looks like some kind of tattoo. And he sort of like leans forward and says, "Now, if you would like to hire us, just make it known that you wish to hire the Black Fang assassins, and we will contact you." And he sort of like gets up and says, he looks over at Lord Ashton and the dagger in his and Lord Ashton's neck as Lord Ashton slowly twitches a bit, then dies. And he looks over to you, Hengist, and he says, "By the way, you can keep the dagger. Just consider it a parting gift." And then he goes like this and snaps his fingers, and the assassins move back, unpinning you, and sort of like coming back. Just to let you know, let me just roll a brawn roll. It's coming. Come on, brawn roll. Oh.
Anytime now.
I know. I know what's going to happen. All of a sudden,
Almost made it.
all of a sudden, so like,
Almost made it.
It's 4. How many are you taking? Which one are you taking?
I just take the first one.
Roll
There you
5.
go.
Where are you?
Yeah, the guy sort of like leans over to try to pull his dagger out, and it looks like it's quite stuck in there, but he sort of like moves it a bit, and luck seems to be on his side with the first dice roll, and he just like pulls it out. How many hit points of damage did you? Oh, half of it would be stopped by your armor, so that's all right. Yeah, and he sort of like looks at it and wipes it, the little tip of it on the grass, and the boss guy, who has now walked around so he's here, says, "Remember, do not try to follow us. We are double this size, and we will not hesitate to kill you this time.
We are legion, and we are many.
We are the Black Fang assassin group." And they all behave extremely professionally, Hengist. It's as if they know about strategy and about combat. They're not turning around and running back in. They're slowly backing off, almost like doing sideways steps like crabs back through. And as your eye line follows them as you move around, you do indeed think you can catch the glint of something in the trees. Is there anything you wish to do?
Yeah, Hengist will. So as they sort of like have faded into the trees, he would have stood up, and he would have gone to sort of Lord Ashton's side, and sort of like just taken in the gruesome death that the chap's done, because he's beyond dead.
Don't forget to get the boar.
And actually, and you sort of like check him out. Do you have first aid? I thought somebody... Is it Haswood?
Everyone has
It's a
first
standard.
aid.
Yeah, it doesn't...
I have first aid, proper
Yeah.
first aid.
Yeah, roll your first aid roll.
Oh, success.
Yeah,
He's dead.
He's coming.
Pity you didn't do that with any of your combat rolls.
He's definitely deaded. And yeah, let's go back.
He is an ex-lord.
Let's go back to the villa. So Bartleby, you're there with the deceased Archie. What would you like to do?
Bartleby would do a quick prayer. It's not the right one since he doesn't know the laid arrest miracle.
Still.
Bartleby's a little bit afraid of situations like this. He doesn't like when people die, and he kind of does the prayer, and then with Archie's face covered, he's gonna go and try and find appropriate people to get a body moved.
Okay, then. So you can head round to the front. So, Gulliver, what would you like to do?
So Gulliver's heard the lady saying about getting the carriage ready. So he presumes it's coming around the front. He wants to come to a window so that he can see where the carriage will be coming up. And while he's stood there, he wants to try to be thinking of the best way to disable a carriage so that it can't move using his hold fast a spell. So I was thinking maybe I could make a drive roll, see whether or not I know the sort of like the.
Well, I think what you could probably.
I don't want to. What I don't want to do. He doesn't want to stick a wheel to the ground because it'll just pull off. If you see what I mean, the ground will just come away as the wheel went. So, if he's thinking of something, it would be having to do with something how the wheels are joined together, and if they go through the middle of the carriage, if he could maybe cast a hold fast on that, it will stop going around.
Roll your drive skill then, if that's what you want to use for it.
I'll use a point of luck to re-roll that, please.
I knew you were a truck driver.
Yeah. You think that there probably are two axles that probably come through sort of like holes that you could maybe hold fast the axle to that point. That would probably stop the wheels from turning.
Yep.
Okay, and it's up to you. There's 4 points. Can you see what I mean? There would be 4 areas. So you could just sort of like do one if you wish, or 2, or whichever you prefer to do. Okay then. So Bartleby, you come round. I haven't forgotten you about your hazard, don't worry. So Bartleby, you come round. Gulliver goes to the window. The carriage pulls up. It's a very expensive looking carriage, pulled by 2 horses at the front. Hazra, what would you like to do?
Can Hazra see Bartleby from here?
You probably can't because he's coming round at the moment.
Let's go where the front is.
Yeah.
Right, sorry, right. There's no back entrance. My apologies.
Well, there is, but there is a back entrance, but you've never ever been there yet.
Been there, right? No problem. Hazra will just walk casually to the front of the building while looking why this woman is taking the children away from here. Be like, in his mind, he doesn't know why she's leaving because there's no reason for her to leave.
Okay, so you wander over to the door. Bartleby, you're probably here, and Lady Harmony-Leigh puts the children into the carriage and gets in after them. So Gulliver,
so as it's happening, Gulliver's going to prepare his spell, and he'll cast it on one of the areas that he thinks might be.
Okay, so are you just doing it one area, one of the points? So you're going to increase your targets to 4. That'll be 3 points of shaping, I think, to increase it by.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So I'll do it on 4 then. I didn't know how it was.
Do you wish to alter anything else? Well, obviously the range will have to be. You can't. Have to put what a point. What's your power?
The magnitude he'll just leave as.
I was talking about the range.
All right. So he'll put 2 times his power, which will be 30 meters. That'd be far enough, or is it further away?
Sorry, my table seems to be wrong at this point. Ba 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 ba. Using sorcery. So you have 1 point of shaping is 1 times your power. 2 points of shaping is 5 times your power.
Okay, so he'll use. I mean, 5 times his power should be fine for.
What is your power? Is it 15?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one meter times your power. I mean, 15 meters. It must be within 15 minutes. So that would be 1 point of shaping for that. 4 targets, which will be 3 points of shaping for that. So that would be 4. Are you casting at magnitude 1, or are you upping the magnitude?
No, we'll just leave it as magnitude 1.
Okay then. So how many points of shaping do you have?
I have 10.
Brilliant. So that's only using 4 of them up. So absolutely no problem at all. So in which case, casting time.
So the casting time will be. Well, let's work it out on the. So duration. I'm going to put a point of shaping in duration as well.
Okay.
So it'll be sort of like stood there for.
So that'll be 5.
30 minutes.
Yeah. So that's 5 shaping points. Yeah.
So I'm modifying three things basically.
Yeah.
Range, number of targets, and duration.
Yeah. So the time taken to cast it is 1 turn plus an additional turn for each
4
component.
turns.
Yeah. So how many actions do you have in a 3?
Yeah.
So it'll come off in six and a bit seconds, won't it? Yeah. Okay then. So that's absolutely fine. Did you say you're altering the magnitude or just leaving it as 1?
Leaving the magnitude as well.
Okay then. Brilliant. So if you cast your invocation spell. Yeah, so that goes off and you cast it. What does this look like as it comes off?
Well, I mean, normally his hold fast one, when he casts a spell, he'll summon up a ball of water and then he'll chuck it, but he's not going to be able to do it that way.
Okay.
So water will probably just form around the areas that he's chosen, and then sort of like ice up and then disappear.
Okay then. I think there's an endurance roll, isn't there? To resist it?
No, only if it's a living thing.
Oh, only if it's living.
Yeah, however, if the target is a living being, it is permitted to resist using its endurance.
Okay, so the axles on the carriage sort of like jam up, and as the horses, Harmony-Leigh sort of like gives the order, and the carriage sort of like jerks forward a bit as the wheels don't turn in their axle, and it sort of like slides along the path a little way, but obviously the driver stops it, and there seems to be a conversation happening. And Bartleby, just roll you're the closest, so roll your perception.
And I use a point of luck to reroll.
Yes, by all means. Oh, nice reroll. Yeah, she seems to be chastising the driver of the wagon and saying how pathetic he is, how he's not capable, he's incapable of having getting a simple wagon sorted, and that he should be fired from his job, etc., etc. And at the same time, she's sort of like getting the girls out of the door to the far side of the carriage, so not at the house side, at the far side of it, and she sort of like gestures and shouts at the driver, and it's sort of like the climax of it all is, and you're fired. Like, you're fired, she goes, and then starts to walk down the drive with the twin girls either side of her. Let's move back to Hengist. What would you like to do, Hengist?
Were you muted?
No, I'm not muted.
All right, sorry.
I was muted, but I unmuted myself. But I still had yet to voice what I wanted to do. Hengist will regather his sword, look at the forest, look at
the destruction around him.
just the devastation and the
yeah.
carnage.
At least you took a few of them with you before they went.
Thanks, Chugs. No, he's going to try and pick up Lord Ashton carefully, and he's going to start walking back to the tents.
Okay, got you. Okay.
Carry Lord Ashton with a dagger in his throat.
Yeah, he's like,
and
drip.
His
Wasn't me.
Wasn't
Wasn't
got
me.
an acid burn brand on his chest.
Hey,
Wasn't me.
Okay, Bartleby, what would you like to do?
Bartleby is trying to find Perry or the next best person for servants. Because you correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just guessing that that'd be the right person to go to for dealing with a death on the property. I wouldn't call 911.
No, well, it's probably the most senior domestic around, which would probably be Perry. He's just sort of stood next to Harsa since he's just sort of seen his mistress off. And and you sort of come in, and he sort of says, how may I help you, Mr. Bartleby?
There's there's been a death.
A death?
In the yes, and
oh,
I believe
my.
Was
it murder?
No, but I think we should move quickly.
You can just see Hasra's all go.
it was not me. It was the one-armed man.
As Bartleby squirms about.
I think the lady would appreciate if we could keep this under wraps and move quickly.
Most definitely. And he sort of looks around the floor and he says, "Sorry, Mr. Bartleby, where is this body?"
Out around back.
Oh, near the tradesman's entrance. Was he a tradesman?
I lean in close to him. He's the guy that was climbing into the lady's window.
And he sort of he goes, "Master Archie?"
Yes.
Well,
Master.
And he sort of leans back to you and says, "Good riddance to bad rubbish, that's all I can say." And he sort of says, "Come with me, Mr. Bartleby, we can sort this out." And he starts to lead you over this way. And there's a door here through to what appears to be a kitchen area.
Gotcha.
And so this is the kitchen, and you can see the outside doors there. And Gulliver, you are in the window. Just cast your spell.
So he's seen them get out the carriage and heading down the path.
Mm.
Okay, so he wants to cast another quick spell, and the
I think
spell,
this is the most spells you've cast in one session since the beginning of this adventure.
The spell that he's casting is that, so he sort of brings his hand down across his face, and he's casting Incognito, which is a folk magic spell, which is, why won't you let me roll that? There we go. 77 out of 86.
Brilliant.
And then he's gonna follow.
Okay. I presume there isn't. It says on your thing that it's resist by endurance. Anyone under the effect is actively ignored by those who might otherwise be searching for them. He is simply overlooked and discounted. I wonder what the endurance is. Do you think that is when you cast it onto somebody who's
doesn't want to have it cast on them?
Yeah.
Either that, or I haven't unclicked it for the resist.
No, it says in the I'm looking at the spell description. It says resist, and then in brackets endurance. It does not affect the voice, mannerism, or physical size or presence of the recipient, but ensures that visually they do not stand out from a crowd. Any other effects of incognito is actively ignored by those who might otherwise be searching for him. He is simply overlooked and discounted. Brilliant. Okay then. So you don't even need to roll a streetwise skill, because Harmony-Leigh is not trying to hide where she's going. Plus, she's got 2 young children with her. She can hardly be stealthy about it. So you sort of like come out and go past Hasra. Are you saying anything to Hasra as you come past Gulliver?
He'll say, Hengist has us to protect them.
Hasra says, sorry, do I know you?
Yeah. I'm sure my friend don't know you.
You've dyed your hair.
I just was waiting for that.
Well, he'll definitely do it, because it's gonna freak Hasra.
It will freak Hasra out.
Well, no, because he doesn't know it's Gulliver.
No, but he'll recognize the voice, and it's
that's right.
He just think this person's like somebody. There's 2 Gullivers in the world.
Why do you sound like my friend?
Yes. And Gulliver sort of like heads out. Hasra, what do you wish to do?
Well, Hasra having this strange, well, not strange person, this person say, Hengist told us to protect him, to protect them, sorry, will look at him, and it's Gulliver's voice going through, but it's not Gulliver, so he doesn't, it's not, people sound the same. But he's more concerned about why she is leaving this place of defence with her children. They seem to be carrying things which are like their belongings, like this clan would do when they're moving now from the camp to move to another camp. So he's got his mind of why. So he will move out, but he will move a little bit faster than this person who said that. Because he wants to catch up and say, what are you doing? Why are you leaving here?
Yeah, okay then. So both of you sort of like head off past this in hot pursuit of this lady who's a very high status. You probably can catch up with her, Hasra, and you sort of like try to engage conversation with her with your questions, and she sort of like looks at you and she says, "Go away, vagabond."
I'm sorry, my lady. Master Hengist told me to protect you. You cannot leave the building without. I'm sorry. It's below my status, but he told me, and he's my lord, and I must protect you.
She looks at you again and says, "Go away, vagabond." And you notice out the corner of your eyes that somebody says, "Sorry, is this person annoying you, my lady?" And you notice that there's 2 guards in city livery. You know, they're.
Yep, and Hasra will stand there and he will say, I am in the service of Lord Hengist. He has tasked me with protecting this lady.
And she sort of like, she turns to the guards and says, "I have no need for protection. I have no idea who this person is. And I have no idea who this Mr. Hengist is."
My Lady Harmony,
and
you know who we are. You spoke to us this morning in your
the guards room. The guards sort of like say, "Please, sir, please step away and leave the lady."
Hasra will, confused, take a step back. He doesn't know why these city folk are being so strange. Why are they being so? Yeah. So he'd take a step back and he'd be shaking his head and he'd be trying to work it out in his head.
And she sort of like moves past the guards and she says to the guards, "You really should do something about these vagabonds and tramps that frequent this whole area." And the guard sort of says, "Yes, my lady, we will make sure that this goes back to our highest, our captain of the guard, and see what. Yes, we'll make sure." Gulliver, you see all this happening as you.
So Gulliver will stop at a distance. I mean, Gulliver will take in the situation, but he's also looking for threats against the family.
Yeah. And you sort of like followed them. You can sort of like follow them to their destination, Gulliver. And she goes to another rather large house. And she sort of like walks up, and you can just sort of like see from the distance. And she sort of like goes up, and somebody comes out, and a woman comes out and sort of like hugs her. And they have an embrace. She's obviously an older woman, probably maybe old enough to be Harmony-Leigh's mother. Just roll your perception. Oh yeah, and you catch something with your dynamic hearing, and two things that you catch, and you probably catch it because Harmony-Leigh is going overboard on this, absolutely overboard, and she sort of goes, "Mommy, you will not believe," and the woman says, "Oh, Harmony-Leigh, please calm down," and the girls are going, "Mummy, why are you crying, Mummy?" And an awful thing has happened, Mummy. And she sort of like says, "Come in, my child, come in. Bring the girls in." And she sort of like steps in, and you see this Gulliver, and she sort of like looks round to see that there's nobody coming up the driveway or anything, and then shuts the door. And Hengist, you carrying Lord Ashton in your arms, get back to the tents, and there's a huge amount of "Oh my God, Lord Ashton's dead. Oh no."
So
I thought he had a bodyguard. Do you have a bodyguard protecting him? I'm sure he had a bodyguard protecting him.
Rob, to fetch and carry.
Not me, no. That's the other guy.
And Reginald sort of like comes out of a tent
I've had word.
and says, "Hengist, my man, what? Oh my God, what have you done to? What has happened to Ashton?"
And Hengist will just say, "He was murdered."
Murder, yeah, as he's still got the he got hit by
the balls of knives.
The ball got him.
Yeah,
It came out,
and he sort of like ushers for sort of like some kind of carrying implement. What do you call that thing that is attached to the back of a horse, like a stretcher?
A stretcher attached to a horse.
No, I'm sure it has a proper name.
It's a sled, isn't it? It's like a sled thing.
It's like a
Chariot?
no, it's like
No,
it's like a stretcher, and you put dead people.
and
And
it's behind the horse.
Yeah, the two sticks or
A
Slow.
Travos.
what's a what? Sorry,
A Travos.
is that what it's called?
No, that's the guy from Doctor Who.
No, that's Davos.
Davos, sorry, yes, you're right.
I'm sure it has a name, but we got anyway. He brings one of the
Gurney.
A gurney, yeah, it comes out on wheels with a porter, and they sort of like lay Ashton, and he says, "His chest, Master Hengist. What happened to his chest? Oh my God, look at that dagger." And Reginald sort of like says, "It's a mighty fine dagger. Is it yours, Mr. Hengist?"
It's not. We were whilst out hunting.
"Please, where are his retainers?"
They are dead as well.
"And you are the only one to survive?"
Unfortunately, so.
Tell me honestly, Master Hengist, how many of them did you kill in your fight before they fled? We have heard great things about your story, of your bravery and your courage. How many?
Hengist will say the retainers were slain by crossbow bolts, and then we were assaulted by from many sides.
It is very.
Surrounded.
I understand. I understand completely, chap. When a hail of crossbow bolts come to you, it is very difficult. Obviously, only I see one hit you in your chest. You were lucky there.
Yes, very. What's worse though, Lord Ashton? No, what's worse, Reginald, is who committed this atrocity.
Was it House Macduff?
No. It came from within House Galot.
No!
Yeah.
I refuse to accept that. There is no traitors in our house.
It was done on the orders of Lady Harmony-Leigh.
He sort of like steps back in amazement, and he says, "Oh my God, Master Hengist, you're accusing Ashton's wife did this?"
She hired the hang on a second, inwils. I've forgotten the name. I've written it down. She hired the Black Fang.
Sorry,
a kill squad attacked us.
Master Hengist, I think you might have been hit on the head. I can see some damage on your visor. Did you take a heavy blow?
Hengist will take his helmet off at this point, so you can just see sort of like the blistering around his face.
Oh my God, man!
Spat by poison. And he's sort of like
how many did you kill? How many did you take down before poor Ashton was killed in this horrific way? It must be many. It is taking you so long to count. Here, would you like my fingers to...
5 retainers.
And a boar. No. Unfortunately...
And a piglet.
Unfortunately, as I said, we were ambushed, and I managed not before they managed to overwhelm Lord Ashton and myself.
You killed... He sort of like stumbles for a while and says, "You killed none of the attackers."
Unfortunately.
But the stories, Master Hengist, the stories about your combat prowess, your defeating of a whole tribe of goblins, are they all lies?
No, they are true.
And yet...
Those events happened, and yet, as I said...
You failed no one. Reginald turns to his aide and says, "You need to go and get the town guard and get them out here rather pronto." And he says, "Yes, Master Reginald, I will go at once." And this young footman dashes off, and everybody's sort of like, there's now like a crowd round everybody, and Lord Ashton is dead, and Reginald says, "It is a sad time. Our leader, the leader of our house, has been overcome and killed. I am sure he fought long and hard and took down several of his attackers, but sadly he was overwhelmed, and Lord Hengist here was here to help. He took down several of their assailants. Their bodies are probably still in the forest. We will be able to find them. Fear not. We will revenge Lord Ashton's death. We will make sure that whoever it is, mentioning no names, Macduff, will pay for this. Will definitely pay for this." And out the corner of your eye, farther away down the edge of the forest, you suddenly see a firework explode up into the air and burst into a wonderful starburst. And everybody sort of like looks at it. And Reginald says, "Damn, they've killed Tusker." And that seems to be a good point to bring this adventure to an end.